Man will say, modern man will say, I'm not having the truth, anything impose itself upon me. I am the one that makes things what they are. Lunacy. But pride. Modern man makes the truth. The truth is a man-made object or a man-made idea. And that's modernism in the church. And how did modernism and Vatican II and the whole official church, the new religion of the official church, the new Catholicism of the new church, how did it come into the church? Because a number of young priests about 100 years ago, and some laity as well, moved this philosophy, applied this German philosophy, it was with French and English antecedents, applied this German philosophy to the faith. So, God puts out there, God makes happen out there, you and I hope all of us would say objectively, in reality, God causes the resurrection to happen. The resurrection happens. This body of a man, an ordinary, a normal human nature, body and soul, which has been on the earth, face of the earth for 33 years, this body was racked on a cross until body and soul were separated. In other words, the man died upon the cross. His body was then laid in a tomb, and 3 days after, it came out of the tomb. It rose by itself out of the tomb. It came by itself out of the tomb, rejoined, the soul and body were rejoined in a special way. You and I believe this. You and I believe it, I hope, as the Germans say, felsenfest. I hope you and I have a rock-solid belief that the resurrection was an absolutely objective and external reality. A reality outside our minds, and if our minds say, this reality is what happened, then my mind, I say, if I believe in the resurrection, then my mind corresponds to the reality, and the relationship of my mind corresponding to the reality is truth. My mind is in the truth, and I am in the truth if I say the resurrection was an objective, external reality. And I sing it, Credo in unum Dei. When I get to the resurrected mortuis, I believe it. And I'm right. It is that because it did happen. It's something external and outside my mind. And I can't change its not having happened, and no human being, and not all human beings together, can change the fact that it happened. None of us can change the fact that the Lord God once took flesh as a human being, united a human nature to his divinity, and lived for 33 years like any other human being on the face of the earth. That is an objective reality. Well, the modernists will say that's an appearance of that's an appearance at that time, or else it's a cozy illusion which was built up in the early years of the Christian church, and the people, say 50 or 100 years after the death of Jesus of Nazareth, they needed to believe in him, that he rose from the dead, that he was the master of death, and so this notion built up. And so under the word resurrection, the same appearance, the same word, resurrection, the modernists put a completely different reality. Just like behind the cream of this wall, the cream color of this wall, which I can see and hear, I put the reality of, let's say, a door. I say it's a door. Similarly, the modernist comes to religion and he says, that word resurrection, you say that word means that a body, a human body that had lived and died, lived for 33 years and died in this life, actually by itself came out of the tomb, being reunited with itself. That's what you think the word means. But what I think it means is, what the word really means, he says, is that the Christians needed to feel something so good about their religion, about the founder of their religion, that they invented his having risen from the dead. So behind the same words and appearances, they put a completely different content. And that's the secret of modernism. Same thing. Is there or is there not, even before, is there or is there not a God? Today, minds are at the stage of, is there or is there not an objective truth? It stands to reason that if there is not an objective truth, there cannot be an objective God. If I have no grip on being, how am I going to have any grip on the supreme being? If I think that being is mush at the beck and call of my mind, that my mind changes the reality as my mind wishes, if I make being into mush, obviously I'm going to make the supreme being into mush. And therefore the question of objective truth is the battleground today. It's no longer, if you like, a battle about whether God exists. It's a battle about whether truth exists. And the terrible thing in our world today, a lot of people do not believe in objective truth. Or they say they don't. And that's almost as bad. They don't believe there's an objective truth. And it's interesting that Orwell, without a grain of Catholic faith, nevertheless had the intelligence to see that the issue at stake in between the party and mankind is the question of truth. If there is an objective truth, then the party will be sooner or later undone. It will not ultimately succeed in imposing itself on reality. That's not suggested in Orwell's book, but it's what a Catholic knows, and that's the ultimate objection, if you like, to Orwell's book. However, if a mind, if there's no objective truth, then the party can and will dominate. Today, my dear friends, something just like the party, and it's the soft version. The hard version was Stalinist communism, and the soft version is globalism. And globalism is now all around us, all above us, all throughout the world, obviously. It's the continuation of communism, because communism is atheistic materialism and globalism is atheistic materialism. Therefore, globalism is the soft version of hard Stalinism. But the two of them are both driving towards a world government by, exactly like in Orwell's 1984, a world government where man is the complete master, including the master of 2 and 2 are 4. And if there are still at that time, as there certainly will be, if there are still Catholics, and even non-Catholics, who know that there is an objective reality, an objective truth, and an objective God, and if these Catholics refuse to submit to the globalist party, it may not be over 2 and 2 are 4, but it'll be over something, then persecution will take place. Notice already how the whole official church has been obliged to start coming back to the Tridentine Mass. It's been obliged to pay attention to, because His Holiness Pope Benedict XVI mentioned Archbishop Lefebvre in, was it his letter to the bishops, or in the document, I forget, I think it's in the letter to the bishops, he mentioned, why on earth does this worldwide church, with how millions of believers, with millions and millions of members all over the world, why has it got to pay attention, any attention at all? Why need it pay any attention to these tiny little groups of faithful, of Catholics all over the world, which is, for instance, the Catholics in the chapels and churches of the Society of Bicentennial? Numerically, we are insignificant, and he needn't have bothered. Why did he bother? Because